Kootenay Connect Priority Places is a regional initiative designed to support species at risk across the Kootenays by focusing on habitat connectivity and restoration in key landscapes. Within this broader framework, a series of species at risk projects were carried out in the Columbia Valley by the Columbia Wetlands Stewardship Partners. This work began with an important question: how can species at risk be better understood and supported with connected landscapes in the Columbia Valley? That question was first addressed through a comprehensive literature review of species at risk across the 180-kilometer-long valley from Canal Flats to Donald. This work brought together existing research, available spatial data, and local knowledge to create the first consolidated picture of species and ecological communities at risk in the Columbia Valley. That assessment identified 65 species at risk and 21 ecological communities at risk within the valley. It also revealed critical data gaps, not only for individual species, but for how habitats connect across the broader landscape. It also helped identify which species, habitats, and locations would most benefit from targeted field-based inventory and conservation, and directly shaped the projects that followed. Subsequent work focused on identifying species and habitats where information was limited, threats were clear, and conservation action could be both practical and effective. When species data, ecological communities, and connectivity information were viewed together, the Columbia Wetlands emerged as the biological hotspot of the valley. This led to the development of a biodiversity conservation opportunities framework intended to provide a spatial understanding of where biodiversity values are concentrated. That work helped species at risk efforts and provided a common reference point for future land use planning and conservation discussions. At the same time, public outreach, targeted inventories, habitat enhancements, and effectiveness monitoring were carried out for multiple species, including western painted turtle, Lewis's woodpecker, osprey, and American badger. These efforts resulted in important tangible outcomes. 3 western painted turtle nesting sites were created, and 36 basking logs were installed to enhance critical habitat. Osprey monitoring expanded steadily, with 84 nesting locations monitored over the course of the project, along with recommendations that led to improvements in nesting habitat at several sites. For Lewis's woodpecker, 31 active nests were documented, with 13 located in a single year. This was a key contribution that helped trigger the formally proposed Upper Columbia Key Biodiversity Area. Nesting sites also informed spatial recommendations for critical habitat expansion. Project assessments also supported formal conservation designations under provincial legislation. 3 alkali saltgrass ecological communities were added to the provincial government's proposed wildlife habitat area spatial layer. 3 wildlife habitat features for mountain goat mineral licks were approved, and over 6,000 American badger burrows were documented, leading to the designation of thousands of wildlife habitat features. 13 wildlife habitat area applications were also made. In total, 718 hectares of provincial crown land in the Columbia Valley has been formally recognized as having significant conservation value based on detailed ground truthing and the submission of wildlife habitat area proposals. The benefits of all this work extend beyond individual species. Healthy wetlands support turtles, birds, fish, and amphibians. Grasslands and mineral licks sustain wide-ranging mammals. The abundance of osprey reflects the health of aquatic ecosystems. By focusing on habitat diversity, function, and connectivity, this work has contributed to improving ecological resilience across the Columbia Valley. Several key lessons emerged over 7 years. First, species respond positively when habitat enhancements are well sited and maintained. Secondly, conservation is rarely a one-time action. Monitoring, maintenance, and adaptation are essential. And thirdly, long-term data sets are critical for moving from individual observations to meaningful landscape-scale understanding to inform conservation decisions. As Kootenay Connect Priority Places comes to a close, the work in the Columbia Valley does not end here. The knowledge, partnerships, and conservation outcomes developed over 7 years provide a strong foundation for future stewardship and species at risk recovery, benefiting wildlife, ecosystems, and the people who share this landscape.